Hello?
Hi, we're not able to hear anything. This is Frank Thompson, and you've got the Child Care Center up now. That's our project.
I hear you, Frank. I'm gonna turn my camera on and wave.
Yeah, that they must have forgot to turn the audio on for the.
Okay, here they go. They're changing it up.
Okay.
Hi, Pablo. Can you hear us?
I can now.
Okay, you can hear us, and I can hear Frank.
Yeah, but we're not joining the meeting for some reason.
Yeah, I don't know.
Well, let's email.
Maybe there
No,
goes somebody.
let's email
looking.
Shannon. No, let's email Shannon and tell him we can't even hear the
Soren.
meeting.
Soren is there.
Okay, both. Yeah.
Well, I saw some woman just go grab the controls, so. I don't know if I have Soren.
Maybe that's it.
There it is.
Can you hear us now?
Yeah.
Yeah. Yes.
Excellent. Oh, we can hear it.
Okay, so we'll go ahead and do this again. If you guys are ready, introduce yourself for the record and begin your presentation.
All right, I'll start off. I'm Mary Doctorman. I'm the project planner.
Hi, and Frank Thompson, president of Thompson Housing and a member of Firebird LLC.
Okay,
Good morning. I'm Pablo Romero, representing the architect of record for this project, RJC Inc.
Mary, you want to give an introduction, and Pablo, go ahead and continue.
Sure. I'll start out with, I'll just let you know that we're getting a new roof, so it could be kind of loud overhead. But this is a project that was conceived as a part of the Brisa Encina supportive housing project right next door, which you folks remember seeing a couple of years ago. And at the time we went back and forth, should we get it approved with it? Should we get it approved without it? So we went forward with just the residential portion, realizing that getting the funding for that was critical and this might actually delay it. So now we've moved past that part of the project development, and the units themselves for Brisa Encina are going into modular construction. But now it's time to turn our attention to that vacant lot that we have on our project plans that say future childcare development. And here we go. So this is a project that, again, is going to, well, I shouldn't say again, but if you recall earlier, this is a project that is intended to serve the entire community. It's going to be childcare for low-income families, but not just of Brisa Encina, of the entire community. So we'll be coming in with a tentative parcel map because we need to excise this use away from the supportive housing for funding purposes. So the setbacks and what you see in our site plan really just reflect the parcel that is in the process of being created. With that, I'll turn it over to Pablo to talk about the actual architecture and design.
Thanks, Mary. So yes, this building is also in continuing with the architectural language that's being used in the adjoining property in Brisa Encina. So we kept with theme of the mission style. Similar to the Brisa Encina apartments, this building will also be pre-manufactured. We will have a set of modules that will be set in place, and the skin and the mansard and the roofing and all of that will be installed on site. With that, if we could zoom into the floor plan slightly, please.
think it's down in the bottom corner. They moved it.
Thank you. So, it's a one-story building, 3,800, just over 3,800 square feet, and as I mentioned, these are 12 by modules that will be installed next to each other, a total of 8 modules. And of course, in order to blend in with the rest of the elements in the complex, we will be providing some canopies, some interest elements, providing the entrance to the building, to the main entrance, the side entry, or the side exit to the patio, depending how you want to see it. And basically, it's the whole building is set up for a couple of large classrooms along the right side of the drawing. That's for preschool. And then on the bottom left of the building, we'll have a couple of smaller kids, like infant and toddlers. And the rest are admin and support services, laundry and what have you. So that's the program for the building. Can we scroll down slightly for elevations and so these modules are going to come in, of course, flat, and we will be providing all the roofing and all these mansards that generate the clay roof tile elements. Those will be site built, and thus again, this is quite similar to the way we are approaching the apartment buildings next door. Mansard will be used for mechanical and any other features that are required in there. So those will be completely hidden from public view. In terms of the treatment of the facade, we basically have a strip of bulged plaster along the bottom, generating a strip of slightly different color. Again, similar to the mission treatment of these bottom strips, and the rest is basically just the fenestration is treated to provide good lighting. These are all most of these spaces are classrooms or some sort of kids activities, so we do want to provide good lighting, and of course the fenestration, we need to have it go close to floor level to provide an experience for the kids inside. In terms of the can we scroll to the right slightly for the gates, to see the gates?
I will.
Yeah, thank you. We are maintaining a very similar treatment of fence walls and side fences and gates. Again, this is the same element that we are using for Brisa Encina apartments, and we either have a stucco wall with some steel rod fencing above, or we have all plain wrought iron fence wherever we have the approach of the user. Is there a next slide here, please?
We should have a site plan.
Yes.
This one?
Well, that's the old Brisa Encina site plan.
Mhm.
Give me a second.
That's all they have in there.
Maybe it's,
I'll just note in the meantime that this is intended to serve 49 children. And it's just under the threshold where the requirements change, 50 and above. The treatment from the county and the state is different. So we're sticking with 49. We're told it'll be run by the National Head Start. Well, the program will be run locally by Communify, which used to be Community Action Council. Now they're Communify, but they're using the tried and true Head Start program that's been around for, I think, 4 decades, if not longer. It's a federally sponsored program. So we're going to be talking to you about signage a little later and how we're going to be melding the two entities in our sign. But go ahead, Papa.
Yeah, maybe is there a previous sheet on this
You want
file?
to just share your slide and bring up the site plan? I mean, your computer?
Just give me a second.
Is it okay if I share my screen?
Hold on.
Shannon's looking for it. She's got it.
Okay, no problem. There you go. Okay, so it is important to note that here we see the complete site plan. So it's good to understand the relationship between the apartment buildings and the childcare center. So this is as you're coming in from Burton Mesa, it's basically the first thing that you're going to be looking at, the childcare center, the outdoor play area, of course, and this parcel will be provided with parking space and a drop-off area as well. And you see this is a preliminary path of the building, but still provides us the reference of where the building is going to be. This is the dashed line that you see here. That's the building path. The building you see below that, buildings A, buildings B, and then a series of smaller paths at the bottom of the screen. Those are all the duplex units that will be part of the apartments buildings. Building A, building B, those are 2-story apartment buildings with studios and 1-bedroom units. So basically, just to understand the relationship.
And that darker line is the proposed parcel line that you can see. It's a little bit like a Santa's boot. That shows where we're planning to subdivide.
Right. Yeah. So the line goes right next to the entry from Burton Mesa, headed south, and then as creating a boot, as Mary indicated.
Is that whose cursor is that?
So,
Is that staff's cursor?
yes.
Yes.
I was wondering if you could show with your cursor how we intend the entrance to be from the adjoining parcel. And then you come in from the adjoining parcel. I don't think you can see my, because I'm not shared. But if you come in from the property to the left of the screen, you make an immediate left into the childcare area, and then you can see how it's a one-way. You drop your children, you see the arrow on the bottom, and then you come out onto Burton Mesa from the Brisa Encina entrance. So it's meant to, we're going to have signage over on the adjacent shopping center parcel, childcare entrance with the arrow. You come in, hang a quick left, either park and walk across and drop your child off, or drive in one of the 3 spaces we have for drop off pickup and circle right on out. So you'll never have to interact with the traffic from the residential development other than right there at the entrance. Also, we have enough parking spaces that we don't need reciprocal access for the Brisa Encina and the child care center.
Still have reciprocal access.
Right, just
Right.
yeah.
So does that mean they do have enough parking on their own, or they're only because of the reciprocal?
No, they're providing parking right in front of the childcare center, and I think that the requirement is only like 10 spaces because it's primarily drop off and pick up. But there are new parking requirements from the new childcare ordinance that Ms. Doctor mentioned. But at a glance, like we said, we haven't reviewed it.
Yeah, we have a more detailed site plan I think we submitted, but which shows the parking there right parallel, pretty much
Yeah.
parallel to Burton Mesa. Burton Mesa has a jog in it, but yeah, you can see them now highlighted. So that's the general idea, is to have a swing around, and there you see the driveway coming from the adjoining parcel. And we have control of that property as well, so recording an easement isn't going to be a big problem. I'm wondering if I could share my screen and show a sample of the signage we're thinking about, just to get some feedback from you all on that aspect as well, unless you have more questions going forward right now with the building itself.
Just a comment, we can only look at those items provided to us. If it's part of the support package, then we can't look at it. You understand what I'm saying? So if you have to share something and show us something that was not part of your electronic submittal package for this process,
Yeah,
we can't view it.
okay. Well then, I guess that answers that question. Okay.
So
Didn't we include an architectural site plan in our submittal, Larry?
Oh, architectural site plan?
no, the only thing that was in the package was the civil site plan from Ashley Vance.
And no landscaping plan?
There was the landscaping plan we looked at that was more so for the apartments.
There isn't any current.
So we have nothing current that even, the landscaping plan just indicates a play area and a childcare center with trees and mounding where your building is going to be.
There was some miscommunication
Okay.
there.
Yeah, I think maybe my upload
Can we get out
take.
since there isn't a site plan?
All right, but this is what we're planning for, the landscape plan. It doesn't change from one to the other,
There's no building shown.
except for the fact that obviously there's a building where they show a depression.
Okay.
And most of the child care, the play area will be of a permeable surface.
So why don't we proceed then with what was submitted and, stand ready to answer any questions and listen to the comments from the board.
Okay, so as you guys are agendized for conceptual, our comments, we will provide no action today. We will provide, however, some suggestions that you can run with or provide alternatives. So with that said, I'll open it up to the board now for comment.
Steve Reese, I have a couple of questions for you, Mary. It appears this is, if I'm not mistaken, this is the entrance into the site where the drop-off would be coming from is from an adjacent shopping center.
Yes.
So you're not a road or a street.
No, a drive.
There will be a driveway entrance. You'll see it on the next set of plans, actually, that is not too far from the edge of that property. It'll come down kind of like an elbow-shaped entrance into this property.
And 3-car stacking is, I believe, what you mentioned. Do you feel that that's adequate?
Yeah,
49 streets.
there's 8 or 10 parking spots to park your car and drop your child and walk across, and there's 2 crosswalks. And then there's 3, curbside stacking spaces.
So, but the parking stalls on the side, I would assume, possibly for staff of the center,
Yes.
your facility. So those aren't really available for drop off. So you're going to have 49 kids and you have 3-car stacking. That seems a little bit inadequate to me, especially coming from a shop.
Well, we imagine some of the children will be walking over from Teresa and Encina, and some of them will be walking from the adjacent neighborhood, and then some of them will be driven and dropped. But not everybody gets there exactly same time, right? It's not like school where it starts. It's the parents drop them off when they need to head to work. So
I understand that
some child,
8 o'clock or whatever, but a lot of it's dropping off because parents are going on to work. So there is certainly a time crush at that early hour. That's so in the afternoon, but.
well, we worked with the program director, and she was thrilled to have 3. She said we often don't have any, or 1, and so 3 seemed like a luxury to her. So.
Okay, well that's fine. I think I made my point.
And
Yeah, definitely.
right now it's questions, and then we'll have public comment, and then board comment.
I have a question. But do you guys have DSA for inspecting, or is it county inspection, or is there some hybrid of those two?
I don't know the answer to that, Frank. Do you know?
But you're talking about, I don't understand that. Mostly this is under county permit. You're asking about building permit and building inspection?
Yes. You mentioned the state and how you stayed under 50, and so I was wondering if this was DSA, if it was looked at by DSA, or if it's just county.
No,
Right.
this is not, K to 12, that's when DSA kicks in. This is childcare, so it will not be under DSA, it's just county.
Okay, that was my question.
I have some questions. There's no vicinity map. There's no relationship to the building areas around it or other properties around it. You need to show that. You need to show the building on site so we can evaluate what's going on, which is not shown. In reference to the old structures being similar, but we don't have any reference to what those look like. So we can't evaluate how this is similar or conforms to the other buildings on site that are going to be built. In terms of like the building, you've got these gable entries that need to be detailed because I really don't know what's going on. It looks like concrete columns and beams, and I don't know if it's open or not, but you need to detail what you're doing. I assume that all of the rafter tails and that sort of thing and the overhangs conform to the old other buildings, but I don't know that either. Other than that, it looks classic, and that's it.
Any other questions from the board? So for me, how far along are you with the property line?
I mean, there's a draft tentative parcel map.
Okay.
I mean, we have control of both sides. I mean, we haven't gotten feedback from the subdivision review committee yet, or definitive about any adjustments of the line. The basic idea is the apron and access to Burton Mesa would be on the parcel of Brisa Encina because we think the apartment would generate most of the traffic use. And so the child care really gets to benefit from that without, because their parcel line is inside of it. So they get to benefit from it without having to pay for it. And the same thing is true on the other western parcel where we have a reciprocal easement in negotiation with a property owner, that the child care center benefits from accessing Burton Mesa from that access without having to pay for it.
And you have the exit gate that you show in the playground exits directly onto the sidewalk. Is that for emergencies or?
Right. That's an emergency exit, so would be used infrequently.
Okay. And the only other access I see is you got them from the two large classrooms on the side, and then you've got another gate inside. The depiction of the perimeter fence, that's going to be all the way around the building, and then it's going to lower for the gates. Is that correct? As shown.
Yeah, that's pretty much right. And then Pablo, you can help me, but the section that has pilasters with a low wall and a smaller welded steel fence top is the western side up against the shopping center. There's also no children's facilities in that area. It's administrative and bathrooms and storage and so forth. But so that's why that one's different on the west side.
Okay.
But they're both 6 feet high.
The whole fence is going to be 6 feet high, the perimeter fencing,
That's correct.
all the way around?
Yeah, the state has requirements about how far apart the individual slots can be and how high.
Okay.
And that's around the childcare building and the open space adjoining it. We do have some other wood split rail fence, along the, between parking and other areas, that it's more of a defining space, visual defining space. But in terms of the actual fencing that you just saw, that goes along the building and the open space.
Okay, thank you.
So Frank, what age groups are you intending this facility to support?
We're dependent on Communify. I think the youngest child they take is about 18 months, and then they have a limit on how many infants they can take. And the child care, the Head Start population, I think, goes to about 5.5.
So no after.
Right, but Frank, it starts at 3 months. I'll just correct you
Oh,
there because I have
okay.
notes from the director. Yeah, 3 months.
So it's not intended for after school care for, I don't know, elementary school students or junior students?
No, definitely not at this location. But in Brisa Encina, we have a courtyard that's immediately adjacent, and there's an after-school program for the children of Brisa Encina.
That live there.
Okay, I thought this was intended for the
But
community.
but what he referred to on the Brisa Encina site, where there'd be an after-school program, is for the kids that live in that development.
Okay.
Whereas this is open to the broader community that qualifies.
Okay, thank you.
Now, looking at your floor plan, the meals that are going to be provided to the kids bring their own meals. Is that correct?
No, food is provided. They make snacks and lunch.
Oh, okay.
And then I remember when we were designing the kitchen, they said we need 3 crock pots. And I thought, what do you need crock pots for? For breast milk. For the mothers that pump, they have their milk in there, or if they have their formula warming it at all times.
Okay. Does the board have any more questions right now?
Sure, just a real quick clarification. So the preschool will take residents or children from the adjacent apartments before it opens up to the general public?
I don't think there's any
no.
priority established for the adjacent apartments.
All right, thank you.
I don't want to step on any toes or break any rules, but since Brisa Encina was approved already by your commission and also by the planning staff, could we look at Brisa Encina? And then you'll get a sense of what we're trying to tie into there.
I think we approved it. Well,
Hey, Mary, yeah, let's wait for questions, Mary.
Brisa Encina wasn't approved by us.
Yeah, it only came
It only,
conceptually.
it only came to
Oh,
us.
well, but you saw it, yeah.
So,
We don't know what the final.
yeah.
It didn't change really.
So the site plan changed a lot.
So then, like, just procedurally, next time when we come back to you, we'll include in our packet just the Brisa Encina renderings.
Yeah, I mean, that would help us with context with your project.
Okay.
So that
Sure.
whatever you want to include, you can include, but I just want to make clear that it only came to us as a review.
Oh, yeah, sorry, my bad. But yeah, you saw this before. Okay.
Okay, so now I'm going to open up the floor to public comment on this particular item. Is Karen available?
Yes. I notice you're talking about the apartments of Brisa Encina having children living in them. Is that correct?
Families with children.
Well, how
Yes.
families live in apartments that are studios or one bedroom? How can that happen? You see,
There are two bedroom units
no, you
as
said
well.
here that they are studios and one bedroom apartments. You did not say two bedroom.
Okay, hang on. So the mix of units in Brisa Encina is 25 studios, 12 one-bedrooms, and 12 two-bedrooms, and that children are permitted to live in any of those units at the choice of the family.
So what you're saying is that when the surrounding community is all single-family homes that have multiple bedrooms to accommodate families, you're wanting to set up a development that places families in a more restricted situation?
Okay, I'm sorry. I apologize.
Yeah.
I need to preface this as we are looking at the daycare center only.
Okay,
We are an architectural review committee, so we're looking at context as far as architecture is concerned. Site compatibility, which is something we'll discuss when they
Okay.
give us a site plan. With the uses that are in an approved project, we have no say over.
okay.
So those
There's
items.
another forum that I can make a comment there about the oh, it's already approved. Okay, you can scratch
No.
that. I'll move on.
Thank you.
What I'm concerned with is the incompatibility of the demographic groups. If you're placing a childcare facility immediately adjacent to studio and one-bedroom apartments, low-income apartments, you're going to have drug use there. You're going to have other issues there. And I am very concerned about the incompatibility of the use of the daycare center next to the low-income, single-bedroom apartments and studios. That's my comment.
Thank you, Karen. Jesus?
Yeah. I'm trying to visualize it because I don't understand. I'm just a guy, I'm not a mechanic and architecture person. There is already a shopping center there. There's a mechanic there. And to put a school or preschool along with the apartments, it's very difficult to imagine how, it feels like you're squeezing in a lot of people in a small amount of space with a lot of traffic flow for the community that already lives there. And I live not so far from there. I drive out to work like everybody else. So that's a challenge that, a lot of us are not happy with. There's also a lack of transparency of letting the community know of what's going on. I found out about this whole thing like a few days ago, and a lot of us, my neighbors, didn't get any notice. And you guys planned this meeting on Friday at 9 o'clock. I'm a teacher. I had to call in sick and leave my students on the last day of school to make my voice and my neighbor's voice being heard on what's going on. So there's a lot of people around our community that's really upset about this. And a big part of it is we're concerned about the crowd. It's going to be a lot of crowd in a small amount of space. And the schooling is, you guys say only 49 students. If you add these apartments, they're going to have to accommodate the apartments as well as the community that has kids. I have a 1-year-old myself, and we're going to be looking for a preschool. And my neighbor has a 1-year-old, and they're going to be looking for preschool. So it won't be able to serve everybody in our own community with this small amount of space as well. So that's another concern that we have. And it just doesn't seem to make sense. It seems like they're trying to put it under the rug by not letting us know what's going on. And they're also rushing it so that nobody can say anything. And it feels like there's a scheduling intentionally to keep us out, where a lot of us cannot come and make our voices heard. And that's a huge concern for a lot of us.
Okay. Thank you. Again, we are just an architectural board. We're looking at, the building architecturally and its compatibility with the other buildings in the area with regards to the architecture.
And Chair, after public comment, I'm happy to provide some context about noticing and the process. If
That'd
that's
be great.
helpful.
Thank you.
That would be really nice if you could just let the general public know.
Sure.
Yeah. So with that said, I understand.
Mhm.
That's my mechanic on the corner. I live in the village just down the way, so.
Yeah.
And, I like going to get ice cream at the shopping center.
Yeah, exactly.
Joy?
Hi, my name's Joy Hoover, and this project was proposed, the Breeze Encina was proposed in 2017. A group of us residents met with Ms. Dockerman and Frank Thompson. It was originally proposed Breeze Encina as 120 units. He met with us, he got it down to 49. And he did mention there was going to be a childcare aspect involved. I'm very concerned about traffic in that area. That's where the kids take the bus to go to the high school. That's where the kids take the bus to go to the middle school. If this is not done right, it could be a real nightmare, and someone could get hurt, a child could get hurt. I noticed that they're now building 50 units. They're proposing building 50 units across the street. So I think we're back to the original number of units that Brisa, that Mr. Thompson proposed. So with the little amount of power that the board has, I know the state has taken away a lot of the power of planners in our community. I would just like them to really scrutinize this intersection and know that the last time there was a fire in our community, we had a really hard time getting out. It's a high fire area. They could be potentially creating a nightmare here, and I don't want anything to happen to the kids in their daycare. I don't want anything to happen to my neighbor's kids. I just want you to really look at this, please.
Thank you. Okay, so with that, we'll go to.
I don't mean to interrupt. I did not fill out one of those for this particular item, the child care center. But I did want to scrutinize one thing. They made mention that the entrance is going to be coming from that other parking lot and then circling back through another entrance to go back out onto Barton.
Yeah.
Or Burton Mason.
Burton
Excuse me. Whether there's 3 stacked, 2 stacked, whatever. I don't know if you guys, any of you have been to any recent school site or any other recent Head Start site to watch traffic flow or even try and get through to the other side. I am a utility worker. I get back and forth through in front of school sites or to school sites because I work on commercial buildings. Trying to do that, you're gonna have 100% guaranteed people cutting across traffic across Burton Mesa to come through and to the wrong way. You're gonna have people lined up and stacked up in the parking lot. There's mentioned earlier that there's only 10 spaces and some of those are gonna be taken indefinitely by workers and that. So in and out, any school site now, Los Barros, which is literally right down the hill around the corner from here, literally shuts down that front street, Violata, to almost virtually a one-way street, right? Just to get in and out there. And that's not including any of the school buses coming in and out or dropping off. So the traffic flow is gonna be horrendous because it already is. Trying to get in and out through there, trying to have people go both ways off of that driveway. The existing driveway that's on that adjacent parking lot.
So just for the record, your name is?
Lucas Gunn, sorry.
We'll just add.
And then when you get a chance, can you fill out a speaker
Well,
form and
he
just hand it
he
over
filled
to
one
me?
out for the next one, right?
Yes, he did.
So we'll just add that number. We'll add this number to that slip.
I can fill out another one if it makes it easier too.
No, this is fine.
No, that's cool. Joy's gonna speak on both, so.
But first of all, thank you for coming out to comment. I know the process is not easy, like you don't know when the right time to speak is. So, you know, we appreciate you making time on a Friday, like you said, and people have work and we understand that. You know, this project will be different from the SB 35, or sorry, the AB 2162 project, where you had the Breese Encina housing development. Because it was a housing development, it qualified for certain ministerial provisions, so there's less noticing, there's not really opportunity for public comment, only came here conceptually on a voluntary basis, right?
Right.
But this project is not subject to the same provisions. So there will be a process. We don't know exactly what the permitting path for it at this point is. And like I said, they haven't submitted entitlements. So this is the very first time staff's even seeing this project. Right. There will be multiple rounds of noticing. And to sort of speak to what noticing includes, it's a 300-foot buffer from the edge of the property lines. And because this lot hasn't been split yet, it's the whole Breese Encina property lines 300 feet out. That's who got a mailed VAR notice in this case. So, and it will likely be Soren Kringle, the sign planner on this project in the future. But besides the regular mailed noticing, we also send out email updates to an interested parties list. And if you all have been in tune to the Breese Encina project when it first came in, you know, there were multiple iterations and state law changed during that time, and there's a lot of changes that occurred. And, you know, if you were at those first VAR meetings for that project, there were, I think, like 80 people here. We created an interested parties list, and we do email updates so that people who aren't captured by the mailed noticing radius are still in the loop. And we will do that for this child care center, and I can even start a list to get the 4 of you on there.
I just know that to Chewy or to Jesus' point here, that 300-foot radius of the property line, I can understand that. It's more of a visual site based, it would what it comes down to.
Yeah.
But if you're bringing it in as a community center or as a community project in a isolated community, wouldn't it behoove them to notify the entire community?
Certainly. I mean,
the only reason I knew about any of this
Yeah.
is because one of those interested parties on the email list posted on social media.
Sure.
And forwarded that around, so.
And Soren did an interview with KSBY as well, and that was part of the process. But I mean, I agree that it's important for the community to be involved in this, and the best
Yeah.
We, you know,
We'll
we're
get
processing like 60 cases each, and they all have slightly different noticing requirements that we're keeping track of.
Right.
And so to depart from the required path,
Yeah.
the easiest way for us to do that is to keep an interested parties list that we contact at specific times, you know, just to keep it organized and make sure that everyone who requests noticing can actually get it. So it would be really helpful for us to have your contact information to include you on that.
It's also, to add to that, what he says, that we are interested, but also like my neighbors who are also interested, but they cannot come and represent.
Yeah.
I think the lack of representation is a huge issue
Sure.
for all of us. It's gonna affect all of us. You're talking about within a preschool that supposedly anybody can join, but you're not letting the people who live there also know. And that's the frustrating part, really. You know, and I understand that you're trying to go within the 300-foot radius, but the sooner people know, the more they can speak up.
Right.
That's the challenge.
And the future rounds of noticing will also include newspaper noticing. They'll include a posted placard on the site. Like, this is so early on that it's, you know, the planners haven't even seen this. Hearing support just does their standard VAR noticing.
Right.
So it, you know, we set up, well, for the project that will be next, we set up a web page. Soren, once this project comes in, we'll also set up a web page with updates. Like, we have a plan for how to handle these high interest projects. It's just not even to us yet. So, you know, I can appreciate that you want your community members to know, and that's part of why we transition these meetings to a hybrid setting where you can come in person, you can show up online, or you can write a public comment in advance that gets distributed to all the members so that people who can't physically be here can still be involved in the process.
Shannon, can you speak to what you think the process will be going forward with planning commission, other hearings? There's a zone change, right? I know there's a subdivision, right?
Well, the tentative parcel map, it depends on WSEQA, who the decision maker would be. So we don't know how it will be proposed. So we can't determine the permitting path until we have a couple other details. So the decision maker could change. But there may be a public hearing required for this project.
Planning commission?
I don't know who the decision maker would be at this point.
As of now, there's no decision that's been made to basically dig anything.
It hasn't even been submitted to us.
Where's the best place for them to voice their concerns?
That would be great.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean,
can probably just give them my email and just reach out.
I mean, which forum?
On the project.
Yeah.
Which forum is the best?
well, I think if we create an interested parties list, we'll have their contact information and Soren can contact them. But again, like, we haven't even received an application to analyze to be able to respond to your concerns at this time. So, you know that it will be a process and we will be in touch throughout that process, but there's at this point, limited things that staff can do because.
For the child care center.
For the child care center, yeah. And Soren is also assigned the adjacent project that will be the next item.
Is the project proposed in the parking lot exempt from our approval?
That's correct. That project in the parking lot next door is under the same assembly bill as the recent Cedar project.
So we're just advisory?
Exactly. They're coming to on a voluntary basis.
And they'll just probably come once?
No.
Well, we'll see.
They'd like to return.
Yeah, it's entirely up to them. We can't require them to be here.
So the only one we have any effect on is the child care center?
Yeah. That's the one where you make a preliminary and final approval.
All right, with that said, we'll float it back to the applicant for comment. Mary? Frank?
Yeah, I don't see any reason why we wouldn't, take any other comments you have, recognizing this is an early review of the architecture, and then I think we could commit to come back to, and it would bring the complete filing with BRISA and the surrounding community, probably including the single family homes the open space so that, you know, all that's in the public record for people to be able to speak to if they want to?
Yeah, this particular project, the daycare childcare center, will come through us for the full Monty. So whatever you want to include with regards to the residential components on that same or adjacent lots, if you wish to include those, you can. For context, it would be helpful for us to review the daycare center. But with regards to, you know, the full review of the next project, we're just an advisory committee at that point because of the project itself.
Yeah, separate from that. But so our next move would be to, if we were to make any changes based on your comments, we would do that and then come back to a preliminary approval as the next stage.
Well, you would actually submit an application for land use.
Oh, right, of course.
Provide those documents that are required, and then work with planning staff to agendize your next meeting with us.
Okay, all right, very good. We'll work with the staff and be clear on that. Thank you.
I have a question. Before you go on.
I'm sorry.
Shannon, since this isn't really a project yet, as far as the county's concerned, this really isn't a conceptual review.
It is conceptual. Without submitting the entitlement case, they're able to come to BAR without a planner for conceptual only. But to go to preliminary, they'd have to.
So then, okay, so thank you for that. Can, if they came back again for just the child care facility, what can they come back at? What can they come back and ask for? Can they come back and ask for preliminary and final? Can they come back and ask for further concept? Since it's conceptual, and since there isn't complete conceptual, can they only come back for conceptual and preliminary? I don't understand this.
Sure, I get what you're asking. So if they submit the entitlement permit, they could return for prelim or final, depending on, of course, your discretion of what you want to return for. If until they submit that application, they can only return for further conceptual.
Further conceptual. Okay, very good. Thank you.
So that's it.
Any other comments that you guys had, or I got concerns regarding the size of the drop-off area, adequacy of parking, show the context of the building on site, and in relation to adjacent development, both proposed and existing. Submit approved architectural plans for the Breeze Encina housing development for context. Gable entries need to be detailed. Rafter tails and overhangs should conform to the other buildings on site.
They need to detail the entry because it's kind of confusing what they want to do.
Okay.
Also, I want to emphasize, I think, in looking at the next project site plan, it's going to make the drop-off issue worse. And I think there's going to be a big problem and they need to figure out if there's 6-month-old kids going in there, they're going to park the car somewhere and walk in.
And
So there's
drop them off.
what?
You can't drop off a 6-month-old kid.
Didn't they have little, she said it was 6 months.
Yeah, so you have 18-month-old. You don't drop them off and have them walk in.
Well, there's nobody going to walk to this place unless they're on site. So I think the drop-off is an issue. It's going to be stacked up out on the road as far as I'm concerned, but you need to do some studies.
Right. I think I'd ask the applicant to work with planning staff. I'd like to see a site plan devoted to this particular project that shows at least to the adjacent buildings so that we can get context as far as the driveways are concerned, queuing lines that are going to form. It would be nice to have a preliminary landscape plan that's going to include not only the surrounding area, but it'll include the interior of that play area. So that we have some kind of idea of what's going to be out there as far as its, permeable surfaces, what kind of surface it's going to be, if there's going to be any kind of structures out there for the children to play on, that type of stuff. So I'd ask the applicant to take these comments, devise, get a plan together as how you want to come back to us, and then work with planning staff to make that happen. You know, right now, I would urge you to come back for another conceptual review based on just the information that was presented to us now. You know, with a more planned out submittal package that would include the adjacent buildings for context, complete preliminary landscape plan that we can provide better comment and better direction so that you can move forward through the process a little bit quicker.
And the on-site proposed.
Correct.
Just to add on to that, I would like to suggest also that it is helpful with a project particularly that is as expansive as this, that we have photographic reference points visually from other angles so we can see how this fits.
And I think that's part of the standard requirement for submittal, as far as that's concerned. So with that said, do you guys have any last comments for us or questions for us? Frank or Mary?
No, just that the state is reaching out to all communities and saying, you know, we're having kind of a statewide crisis on childcare. And we've been working with Head Start to try and get grant funding, both for the services and the building, and to get childcare. There used to be childcare on the Mesa. I think a lot of you that have been there over 15 years remember it was in the church, and then they lost their lease, but they've been trying to get back up. Head Start and Communify have been trying to get up to the Mesa ever since. So we're hoping we're filling a need in the community. I mean, that's our total goal here, is just to help fill that need.
So this is a lot of fun.
Yeah, I hope some of the people listening are aware of the need for the childcare. That's all I would say.
I do have a question, you know, about the gable entry, the raft detailing. Are you, I don't know if I'm understanding this correctly, but are you trying to, you're interested in seeing architectural detailing, or more about, you know, a 3D visual of how this would look?
I don't really care about 3D visuals. I want you to explain how those entries work, the base, the columns, the beams. Is it open underneath? Is it closed underneath? Are those open trusses going back to the building? And architecturally, what do you want to do there? Because it was
understood.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, because right now, this is under conceptual review. What you'll do is you'll come back for planning with a more information with regards to the buildings and the structures. But before final approval, it's going to be a construction level drawings. So you'll have construction details, you'll have full planting and irrigation plans as part of your submittal to us. So it's almost going to be a completed set of construction drawings that you will submit for a building permit.
Minus structural.
Minus the structural.
Minus the structural information.
Technical stuff.
Yeah, so we'll be one to look at, you know, how the finishes are going to come together, how you're going to detail those items, you know, what your plant list is going to be, where the plants are going to be located, how you're going to irrigate them, things like that.
Window details, eave details.
Understood. Thank you.
Okay, thanks. From that, we'll move on to the next item on today's agenda, BR number 2300159, the Thompson Housing Project. Again, if the applicant is ready, go ahead and introduce yourselves for the record and begin your presentation.
Yeah, this is Frank Thompson. I'm a principal of Thompson Housing. We function to promote low-income housing throughout Santa Barbara and Ventura County, try to meet critical needs, which is what the objective of this proposal is. Let me hand it over to Mary, the project planner.
Yeah, I'm Mary Doctorman, project planner for this project, as well as Brisa Encina and the Child Care Center. This project also is in response to the need we have for preventing homelessness. We consider supportive housing will take people who are experiencing homelessness and also people who are low income that are one paycheck away from homelessness. The need is great in Lompoc as it is in all of Santa Barbara County. I think I'm going to stop there and just since this is architectural review, we'll hand it over to Pablo Romero.
Pablo Romero, representing the architect of record, RJC Inc. So this this parcel is precisely adjoining the one we just saw a few minutes ago, Brisa Encina and the Child Care Center. We do have a site plan, or at least an aerial view here on the top left, showing the location of the parcel that we will be generating. We will be, and this one is the one that's adjoining the, the commercial center, where it is right now part of the commercial center. It will be, we will be generating a new parcel here, and it's adjoining on the left side the mechanic shop. On the right side, it's adjoining the Brisa Encina apartments and the Child Care Center, and Burton Mesa defines it along the north end. Can you slide to the right hand, please? Here we see, the same little bit of a zoom in with slightly more detail. So the parcel that we are generating, it accounts for all of the front to Burton Mesa, and we are allowing for the commercial plaza to retain half the driveway and their parking strip along the front, the north front of the property. And we do have some images. I don't know, you have that in your packet. If there's anything that you want me to discuss, but you already have that in your packet. A and B are from Rucker Road, looking into the property. B, this B one is basically where we will be just close to where we will be generating a new driveway entry to the property. It's kind of running along the new property line, give or take. Next slide, please. Okay. So we are, our proposal is to adjust, relocate the existing curb rake to generate a new primary access, which is slightly moved east of the existing location. And it will basically generate a straight shot running north-south that will provide entry to plaza, to our apartment building area, but also to the existing commercial building. And as it was discussed, it also provides entry for drop-off to the Child Care Center. So on this one, we do see more of the interaction between plaza and the childcare center. The building is set along the front setback. So right along the front setback, it's respected. We are providing way more space on the western edge of the property line for a setback. So we're allowing for slightly larger space along the back of the building. But the distinctive feature here is that along the southeast corner of the building, we're generating an outdoor space, a community space, a plaza space that's in line with the name of the property, Plaza de la Bandera. We're keeping that plaza, that open courtyard there as a community space that can be used, of course, primarily by the users of the building, but can definitely be used by anyone as from the community as needed. Even customers of the commercial strip south of it. The vehicular access has been preliminarily discussed with fire department. There were some slight modifications. We're maintaining a 24 feet wide fire apparatus path of travel, and we are maintaining connections to all the primary streets, Ruckus Road, Burton Mesa, and even the alley south of the property. Next slide, please. So in here we see the different fencing that we will be using along the complex. We do have the blue line, which is a 6 foot high aluminum pre-assembled fencing and gate. So that's basically just open picket fencing. Then we have the red dashed line. That's a 3 feet high stucco base wall with the 3 foot high aluminum pre-assembled fencing on top. And and of course the gate, the gates per se, the gates, the green gates are, entry gates, service gates, emergency gates. In the next slide, please, we can see so basically, if sorry, can we stay there just for a minute on the previous one? So as you can see, we're only secluding the space around the north edge and the west edge of the building. The rest of the space is completely open to the community. So it's both a way of allowing people, and we'll go into the floor plans in a minute. It's trying to allow for all these community services that are displayed, located at the lower level of the east wing of the building. So we're allowing for the community at large to get served out of those community services. And again, in trying to generate this plaza concept out of the building. Next slide, please. And similar to what we were seeing a few minutes ago, we have the 3 foot, as discussed, we have the 3 foot fencing on top of 3 foot stucco wall as the main perimeter fencing. And then we have some that's the wrought and steel fence that basically on connection points. Yeah, next slide, please. Um,
Do you want me to go to another slide?
yeah, let's go to the next slide. This is just, details for parking. So this is our building, 3-story building. Can we zoom out slightly? So we see first floor on the right, second floor in the middle, or called ground floor, first floor, second floor, but same story. So ground floor on the left. Can we slightly zoom in to the right side? I'm sorry, left side, ground floor plan. So this is again similar to Breeze Encina. This is a modular building. We are building modules of roughly 13.9 by 58 feet, pre-manufactured, assembled on site. And these are all studio units. All of these are going to be studio units. All of them have the potential to be accessible. We do have an elevator tower. And on this first floor, on this ground floor, rather, all the services, as I just mentioned, are located along the east end of the building. And this includes offices for miscellaneous support services, includes a meeting room that can be leased for community events or can be used for creating community chats or events or what have you, along with a community kitchen and restrooms. And that's basically all along that east end of the building. The rest of the we also have on that bottom floor, we have the laundry room, which is this one only serves the housed community of the complex. And then on the bottom right corner, we have the manager's unit. Can we slide? There you go. Thank you so much. We have the 2-bedroom unit for the manager, on-site manager, a property manager. And we're also providing a bike parking and electric bike charging stations here at this. Thanks so much. So yeah, electric bike racks and standard bike racks, charging stations, and all of this on site. We're also, and this is along the appendix of the building, along the south portion, that's mechanical, electrical rooms, stairwell, and elevator that will be going up onto the next floors. And all of these, the entry happens along the porticated area. And again, all these porticos will be site built. All the rest of the modules will come pre-assembled. And then on the second story, it's just studio units, no change whatsoever. The only change happens along the north end of the building. Can we slide to the top of the sheet, please? So on the second story or third floor, however you want to call it, the building steps down slightly, just to trying to minimize the massing of the building along Burton Mesa. We want to be we wanted to recess the 3-story portion of the building slightly towards Burton Mesa. That's basically the intent. So we're generating a mechanical, electrical rooftop along with some pergola seating area, and that's basically the intent. Otherwise, it's just an emergency exit. The next slide, please. The drawing is going to be on the left hand of the sheet. Thank you. Great. So as I mentioned, these modules will be coming in with a flat roof. We're just treating the entire after the buildings are the modules are on site, we'll just be building up a mansard wall, a mansard, and to receive those roof clay roof elements, gable elements, and then we generate a flat roof with solar panel features, mini split units if needed. So all of those elements will be, secluded from the view of the public. We do see on the north end it's more of a flat roof, and that's it. So that's our roof plan. Next slide, please. So for this building, we are, and excuse us if we did not include the imagery of Brisa Encina, but it's basically this is mimicking what we did for Brisa Encina, with just the exception of the tower element, which is the elevator and the lobby element. So can we zoom in on the top sheet, on the top portion of the sheet, please? So this is our south elevation, and we are proposing that porticated element along the bottom of the the connection between the enclosed space and the plaza, and then the entire tower is going to be treated in sandstone cladding. The rest of the building will be stucco. And on the east elevation, we do see that, well, of course, we do see the treatment of the elevator element, elevator lobby and stairwell lobby. But we also see the development of the building, the 3 stories, and how it steps down towards the 2 stories as we near Burton Mesa. And we also incorporate another portico for all these services that are opening up directly to the plaza. And this is also an east facade, so we want to provide some shading there for that intense morning sun. Can we scroll down, please? Can we scroll down into sheet? Okay, thank you. I'm sorry. It took a minute to load up here. And this, the north elevation, this is the one that's going to be seen from from Burton Mesa. So we do see the stairwell element and the step back of the third story as it goes, on the background. Finally, the west elevation. That's what the car shop is going to be looking at pretty much. A portion of it will be facing out the Plaza de la Bandera as well. Can we see the next slide, please? This is longitudinal section. Can we zoom in, please? Just basically to describe how that mansard receives all this mechanical solar equipment, which is then secluded from public view. How we step down from 3 to 2 stories, and have that pergola element sitting area along that front, and of course the stairwell going down. Next slide, please. We're providing a whole set of bike parking accommodations, some outdoor, which are the ones on the bottom, and the racks that will be providing are the ones shown in the top of the sheet. So we do have we're providing all this infrastructure for bike parking. We understand that it's going to be intensely needed by our users. Next slide, please. More details for the bike parking and also our trash enclosure element. And this sheet, this is our preliminary lighting plan. All the elements that we are providing are dark sky compliant. We do have parking lighting, and post mounted, as well as building mounted features and basically flush mounted on ceilings, wall mounted along the building side. Next slide, please. Yeah, so similarly, you'll find all the details of where we are proposing to install some of these wall-mounted elements, which is pretty much in the mission style. Can we go to the next slide to show the actual features? There you go. So left hand, that's going to be our exterior wall-mounted light fixture. All of these are, as I said, dark sky compliant, and you can see the legend. We've already selected a manufacturer that's providing that compliance, and post mounted along the right side. That's what we will be using, as well as some elements that are surface mounted for certain entry points. Next slide, please.
Oh, that is the last page.
Oh, okay, excellent. So that concludes my presentation.
Do you guys want me to discuss AB 2162 and its applications to the project?
Yes.
Yes.
Before we go to board comment.
Yeah. It might be just easier also just for me to explain it verbally. So this project came in under AB 2162. Essentially what that means, it's supportive housing. This is a state assembly bill, so it's coming from the state. The supportive housing is a use by right in zones where multifamily dwelling is, or multifamily units are permitted. So essentially this project, if it meets this list of requirements for to qualify for supportive housing, we essentially have to only look at objective requirements, things like setbacks, height limits, and we can really only apply those. As far as looking at it from like a use perspective, we don't have as much leeway. And so this project is here as a zoning clearance, which essentially means it's not required to go to a hearing body for a public hearing, or it doesn't require environmental review. So they're here under their voluntarily for the board's opinion, and yeah, I think that covers it. I don't know if you have anything to add.
I have a question.
Oh,
Does-
can we just finish this up? Yeah, so Soren did provide a memo also that walks through the objective development standards that the county has developed and adopted. And so, one option for the board is to structure your feedback based on the areas where we thought there were potential issues, so that perhaps you can provide.
Is this new?
These are almost a year old. Yeah. And so that might be one way you may want to approach your review.
This is just for commercial zone. This isn't like the full.
Oh, it's not the full.
It's not
Okay.
the full development standards.
Okay. Yeah, but just any feedback you can provide for the applicant that they they came here voluntarily because they wanted feedback from you, so.
Okay, is there any parking standards in that document?
We
There
do,
was.
we do have parking standards, and I can pull up the,
Is it that one right there?
yeah, I
Yeah.
think so.
The gist of it is that we can require a certain amount of parking for some of the uses, but not the units that are strictly supported.
Yeah. So like
Based
there's
on
some
the
office, there's like.
So if there's office space, you can assign, you can have required parking for that. None of the residential areas?
The affordable units, we can require a certain parking ratio, but for the units that are supportive, which is 20% or 12, whichever is more, we cannot require spaces for those particular units, which I think there are.
There are 12 supportive units.
So there will be a parking requirement?
Yeah.
Okay. All right.
Excuse me, could you
What-
repeat the number of the law that you stated, AB what?
2162.
2162, thank you.
So as, I'm going to open up comment or questions from the board. Again, they are here voluntarily for our opinions. How they take them is how they take them. So with that said, does the board have any questions?
Questions or comments?
Both, I guess.
Well, architecturally, so this is a suggestion because if you look at the east elevation, if you step down the building from 3 to 2 on the right side, it would be better if you could step down it on both sides. I know you've got a big tower, which I don't understand why it's that tall. It's probably the elevator. I'd move the elevator into the building more so that you could reduce the mass of the building on the ends. I think the vocabulary of the building is fine because it matches a lot of the other stuff around it. You've got randomly placed arched windows that I'm not sure can open. They're supposed to be single hungs, I assume, and I'm not sure how that works. Anytime you have an opening that's an arch, should have a depth to it. You shouldn't want to ever have a 6-inch deep. You should have some articulation around any of the arched openings, like in the stairwells and so forth. The north end of the building is stark and very plain and flat, and you need to do a lot of work on it and not just put little buttons on the outside like you did on the south elevation, which are just, there's 6 of them along one side, which doesn't work very well. You need to work on that some more. And those are my comments architecturally. Oh, one other thing. You've got a terraced trellis that you need to work on and figure out what you're really doing there because it goes between a solar panel farm and mechanical units. So you have to give them somewhere to go, I would think. I know that it's just it's a visual from the road, but make it something that works a little bit better. Kind of keep thinking about what you're doing up there. Give people an area somewhere, and maybe screen the mechanical units somehow. Think about it.
I got most of those. I missed one about windows and whether they actually open or not.
There's some arched windows. There's even on, say, east elevation that are kind of random. They look like single hung windows that slide up, and they're arched on the top. So I'm not sure how that works. So think about where you're going to put them because they seem a little random, particularly on that elevation. Oh, I guess it's also on the west elevation. There's just a couple of them randomly placed up on the top.
Okay, thank you.
I have a couple comments for you as well. First, I think that this building's too massive for the community. I don't think there's anything close to 3 stories around it.
There's not.
And so I would suggest that we make the building 2-story. You probably don't want to hear that. In addition, the north side, as Mr. King spoke, is really austere. It's stark. It needs definitely some work because that's what everybody's going to see from the street. I mean, you've created this big tower element on the opposite side against the shopping center. And is there a height limit in this zone, Shannon?
There is a height limit. I believe they're using state density bonus law to exceed the height limit.
My mistake.
So they're using concession. I can look at the exact height limit.
That's okay. I think that the scale there just maybe needs a little bit more study.
Maybe that's 4 stories tall.
In terms of I like the idea of the lower arcade. I think that helps break up the massing of what, to be honest with you, kind of looks like a penitentiary to me. But the massing of the arcade would help if it was a little bit maybe more continuous, and would help break that scale. The way it is now, it kind of has like gaps there, and it doesn't really have a flowing continuity to it. So maybe you could look at some ways to maybe tie that together, going around the building. I think perhaps, and I wasn't sure because I'm not quite familiar with how the other project is in terms of colors, but maybe some bands of color in here could help soften this big mass. I realize that it's the modular system, so we're talking about a bunch of boxes stacked up on each other, but maybe something that would help some differentiation in the fenestration, or perhaps continuation of the arcade. Some different colors and materials might help soften the overall mass. That's pretty much my comments.
I have some comments and questions, and I also know that we're fairly restricted as to the range of what we have any influence over here. I agree with everything that's been said so far. I think the building is out of scale for the area. I think that we're looking at now over a 4-story tall building with that tower, which with relevance, the tower being that high would need to be explained to me before I could understand why it's there. The material below it, I know we haven't seen a material panel yet, but that would be something that I would be very sensitive to, that what that's going to look like relative to the portico down below it, the northern exposure from Burton Mesa, which is the most visible to the public and the least attractive of every angle here so far. Most concerning to me is the element of parking. This is going to be a very, very dense building. I think from what I'm seeing that there's inadequate parking, particularly considering that it's restricted. There's not any on-street parking. What you're going to end up having is people who live here parking in the strip mall or shopping center, whatever that is relating next door. And the fact that 50 some odd units, absolutely no outdoor space other than a quote plaza, which has access to the general public that does not live here, which means that all of these people, their lives are restricted to the inside of a small apartment, no outside entertainment area, a place to gather, to barbecue, to do any sort of gathering of family or friends. It just seems the mention of the term a penitentiary sort of looks a little bit like that to me, maybe closer to a hospital, but it doesn't look very human. And I know it's low income. That shouldn't mean that it's dehumanized. There should be human elements here, and I don't see anything yet. Not the least of which there is no place. I mean, imagine you live in there, you've got a child. Where do you take the child to walk? I mean, I assume people are going to be able to have pets in there. Where are they supposed to walk their pets? Where are they supposed to let their pets relieve themselves? How does that work? I also heard mentioned mini splits as if needed. Does that mean that there is no air conditioning in this building, or is the air conditioning provided on the roof? How is that going to work? And just going back one more time, because we're seeing 2 projects here, essentially tangential, and all I can see is an absolute traffic nightmare. Parking in, or traffic in, traffic out, people dropping off, people picking up, bicycles, strollers with people with kids, and all of this again is not secured. It's open to the general public. And that makes me quite nervous for the security of anybody who's living in there. The other thing, one last thing, again, to keep it a little bit human, where is there provided anywhere for any storage for personal belongings that don't fit inside such a small unit? Are there any lockers that are available anywhere here? And that's it.
Can I ask you to clarify? You had a question or a comment at the beginning regarding, you mentioned a portico, but I didn't catch the comment.
On the far left of the lower, or the center piece there,
So which elevation is that?
there is the overhang,
East elevation.
as there is there.
Under the tower, Shane.
Right, under the tower particularly, how that relates to the material above it and to the actual architectural significance of that, which just looks like it's being made to be the most significant architectural statement of the property. And right now, I don't see how that works.
Okay, thank you.
Mhm.
Do you want us to answer some of these
Well,
concerns now, or we?
Yeah, as soon as we're done, then you can, we'll open up public comment, and you can make any responses to any of these questions and or comments. I have a couple questions with regards to the existing site. This is one APN, is that correct? And then you are going to do some lot line adjustments to create how many parcels? Just the two, or?
3, actually.
End up being 3?
Frank,
That is correct.
you wanna?
Yeah, we're working closely with the shopping center owner, and the shopping center owner was unable to get plans together for the same meeting, but he intends to come back to add 4,000 square feet of commercial on the piece south of the auto repair and up against Rucker Road. So you can see it there is almost a square in the drawing. So it would continue the parking scheme that you see now. And then that's why the entry is realigned. And then would be a simple, similar commercial structure to the commercial structure he has to the south. So he's trying to make up his mind if he wants that on a separate parcel or to be combined on his existing parcels. So we haven't decided that yet. So the answer to your question would be 2 or 3.
Okay, so with that said, currently existing on that site is a second row of parking where your building is. So my question is to staff. With regards to the required parking of this apartment complex, the required parking for the retail building and a potential third building on this particular site, is there enough parking to support all those buildings? Currently, there is behind the restaurant that exists there, there's an outdoor eating area. We've got parking spaces shown that aren't really parking spaces anymore. 2 of which are accessible, as indicated on the plan. I don't believe that there's enough parking to support all 3 buildings that are going to be on this site. You have a large landscape area adjacent to what you're calling the plaza. Is that part of the landscape requirement for your structure? Or can additional parking spaces be placed there? With that said, you indicated that there was a reciprocal access agreement that was going to be drafted up between your new building and the daycare center. Is there going to be a reciprocal parking access and parking agreement with the shopping center?
Right.
Yes, and we're waiting for the conclusion of the conceptual review here and also review from the subdivision review committee to determine exactly where those driveways are and how wide they are. Yes.
Well, I'm not as much concerned about the access as I am concerned about the parking. You know,
Sure.
you're going to put in 47 units, you're going to have 2 offices, a meeting center, and we've all but just shifted the existing parking that is the shopping center around a bit. So, I'm not sure that this particular site can be adequately parked. The other comment is with regard to the interaction between the daycare center. You've got a fairly large landscape area just east of your driveway that can certainly be reshaped a bit to help out with any queuing that's going to be part of the daycare. I'd ask that you kind of look at that. With regards to the building massing, I think you've heard it that it is a very big building on a very small lot. With regards to site views, specifically from Burton Mesa, we've got a 3-story wall that has a stairway on the end of it, and I think that needs to be studied and looked at a little bit better. I understand that you guys are here voluntarily to get some comment from us. So I would hope that you take these seriously as you move forward with your project through whatever channels that they're going to move through. Does the board have any other comment at this time?
Mr. Chairman,
Sir.
I just have a question. What are the density bonus concessions that they're asking on this?
I think that actually Mary might be able to answer that a little better because I know that at the time of the submittal, it was just for the height limit increase, but our analysis, there were further concessions that would be required based off the plans that were submitted. But yeah, so they came in and they only asked for the height limit increase.
Yeah, we've done this project, so we anticipate that they'll be requesting more and potentially waivers as well.
Like parking and landscape area?
For parking, I don't think they need it. I mean, they technically meet the requirements. But that said, we don't have all the pieces of the puzzle, like Michael pointed out. Oh, okay, we were short on parking. So that was a comment we had.
Yeah, because they've indicated under required parking 0.
That's not true based off our analysis. The total that we determined was 46 spaces, and they provided 26 spaces.
Ooh, interesting.
It hinges on how many units are designated supportive and have to serve the target population. And
To a maximum of 20%.
a minimum
Minimum, yeah.
of 20%. So if they propose more, then their parking requirement is decreased. And so, we've done an analysis on what was initially provided, but there will be additional submittals.
Question. May I ask a question? Is there going to be required a traffic study here anyway? Particularly with so much coming in and out of this one particular spot?
It's exempt from CEQA, which I think is what Soren was going to say, and then, but Public Works, this entry is to meet their standards, or otherwise to receive a design exception. So they will be looking at the circulation route.
Will the daycare have a traffic
When they
study?
go for a lot line adjustment or subdivision line, doesn't that trigger CEQA? Auto?
That would trigger CEQA.
The tentative map will, yes.
Okay, so there is. That's the question. Yes.
Yes.
But the project, no.
For this project, we can't require one. However, for the tentative map and any future commercial development, we will be reviewing them under separate entitlements, and it will be subject to CEQA.
Be a little late for this.
Will the daycare have a traffic study?
It depends on what the ultimate permit path is.
Is an EIR required? Not at all?
Well, we don't know at this point what's even proposed, so we can't determine the scope of environmental.
You do not know, is that what you're saying?
Right.
If
We do not know what the scope of the development proposed is and whether, what section of the CEQA guidelines would apply. Okay. Yeah, we don't have enough information at this time.
I'll just note, we do have a traffic study prepared for Brisa and Sina.
Looks like it, yeah.
Thank you.
How does that help?
All right, so at this time, I'm gonna open up to public comment. Again, we are here, they are here voluntarily. So, we don't have to make suggestions. It's up to them to follow through on those suggestions, so. That's it. Lucas, go there.
Lucas Gunn again. And a lot of the things and concerns that we had, both as a community up there in Mission Hills and neighbors and stuff, the ones that have or have not been notified of any of these, just the general voice of it, you guys have hit a lot on, such as security issues, parking issues. I'd like to see the actual designs here, and to answer someone's question about how big it is, there's nothing anywhere remotely near there that big. The only thing in Lompoc close to that big is the one Hilton Hotel down there in town. Someone made a comment about, the lady on there made a comment about there was a Head Start program, child care up there in Mission Hills before for that thing. I just wanted to say that, no, my wife worked there. That was a daycare center, and it had like at max 15, 20 kids. This project right here, it looks like to this design, they're all single units, they're all studios. You're gonna have a lot of people, not necessarily with children per se. If so, that's sad. They opened with saying that this was part of, some guidelines for transient population homelessness. I know it was mentioned as a penitentiary looking. First thing I thought of was a transient hotel. And I know with the lack of community center, lack of public space that's showing up here, that just means all those people are gonna be going, if they don't have jobs, wandering through the neighborhood that's right there. Obviously the parking and traffic flow, I know they mentioned 24 feet was a guideline or something like that, but you're gonna have traffic coming and going from 3 different directions across 3 different properties using the same 2 driveways. So it's going to be a nightmare to say the least. I know that you mentioned that there was not a traffic study needed, or at least at this point. I wouldn't necessarily say that it should be mandatory. I have no control, or I'm sure you guys have no control over that, but they need to not only come there during the middle of an afternoon on a weekday, they need to come there on a weekend. They need to come there, later in the day, early in the morning, because most of the community there are 9 to 5 workers that travel to go in and out. So doing a study at 2 o'clock on a Wednesday afternoon ain't gonna tell you any accurate thing. That big proposed area, or at least the south side of that building, and that open lot adjacent to the left of where that building is behind the mechanic, that's also regularly used as a food bank for community, for people coming, churches and stuff like that, to get food, and that they host car shows, events there. And not to mention, just generally speaking, for the several restaurants and coffee shops there, there's a lot of parking that's not necessarily outlined that is used there. It may not be painted on the pavement, but it's used frequently. Outside of that, I know they mentioned emergency issues or access was said earlier. I have photos of my wife in her SUV trying to be evacuated from Mission Hills, and right where they're trying to do all this is the one in and out of Mission Hills when it gets closed down. So you're compounding an issue that was already a problem, both for emergency access as well as leaving. So evacuate. I hope all that goes under review when they bring it up. I know there was a mention of making it smaller. That would be preferred, because it sounds like we have no control on whether the project's happening or not. But other than that, I appreciate the time.
Thank you. Jesus?
Yeah, just to get clarification for myself, like, it sounds like this is happening whether the community say it has an input or not. Is that correct?
It doesn't have to go to a public hearing, and if they meet all of our objective standards,
We have
we
to.
have to essentially approve it.
We can't trigger anything.
Is there anybody we can contact that can hear at least our voices? Because I understand you guys have your hands tied, but.
CEQA's
Gavin.
gonna be triggered.
No,
It can
AB
be.
2162 and SB 35 projects are specifically exempt from CEQA. They're strictly ministerial processing.
Then there should be a lawsuit.
It's the law that the state made.
No, there should be a lawsuit against the state for doing this to our community.
Okay, well, I mean, I can't
Okay.
speak to their process, but I can say that, if the project complies with the AB 2162 requirements and our objective requirements, the county has to approve it.
And with that, I just want to get clarification on that part. But I think there's a lot of issues with, particularly if we want to say we want to help the homeless community out, and it's for low income housing. The location, it's not a good location because what was mentioned earlier and how it's going to affect our community, and also because of where the resources are, where everybody from this community gets their resources, their grocery shopping, their gas, their jobs, it's all in town. So we're talking about like around, if we're gonna build bikes there and they're gonna ride their bike to work, which is would be in town, they have to ride through the Highway 1 where there's absolutely dangerous. And then you're gonna have people getting hit, and it's a safety issue with that in general. So this is not about helping homeless or low income communities, because all of the resources that these people would need is in town. So that's the one issue that I hope is taken into consideration, that if it is for low income housing and for these people, they're not going to get their needs met at Mission Hills with just 3 stores there. So also an issue that a lot of us mentioned is the height of it. It's huge, it's massive, it's really tall, and it's not going to fit in with the rest of the community. And it's also going to put in, as we mentioned earlier, a small space with a lot of people, and that's never been a good idea in any community. No community has ever benefited from squeezing in as many people as we can in a small lot. And that's very, very scary for myself, my family, who has a daughter who walks to the shopping center there to get some ice cream and get something to eat, and to know that this is going to happen. And then, like you mentioned, the traffic flow, that seems to be a repetitive theme. There is, where I live in Calle Lindero, in the most corner part of it, our only way out is through Burton Mesa. So if there were to be a fire where we had to traffic with these people and everybody in the community that has to get out is only through that. And that is extremely concerning. And then there's parking, and the parking issue as well. The parking issue, we have truck drivers that park in the outside, but that's about it. But if you're gonna fill that whole block with cars, it's gonna create lots of issues, especially when you put in, as we mentioned, low-income community people, desperate situations. Groceries we're gonna be exposed to that situation where nothing good ever happens from it. So I hope they really consider relocation, if they really want to help the homeless community, relocation into in town, downtown, where they can use the bikes, they can use the electrical bikes, they can use, what is needed to get the needs met. Their support system, their access to the government services will be in town. There's nothing like that in Mission Hills. It's just a community of houses, of people who live there and then go out to work.
I neglected to answer the second part of Karen's question, which was who you can speak to about this, like, from within a very rigid framework, but you obviously have elected officials too, and Supervisor Nelson, I'm sure would be happy to hear from his constituents. So
I
And then,
spoke to them at the Board of Supervisors meeting earlier this week, so I will be going back, for sure.
okay, and then I should also just note, I don't think it came up in the project description, but these types of projects are required to have on-site support services to serve residents. So that is included in the project, just to provide that information to
So
you. But
what have they, what does that mean exactly on?
So the initial submittal proposed 3 full-time employees, there's a project manager, and then half-time peer support coordinators. And then there's a list of tasks that are laid out, just such as like housing retention training, computer training, hygienic training, things like that they provide. So that's essentially what the on-site supportive staff that would be composed of.
Okay, thank you. Karen?
Okay, it'd be really helpful if, you know how they put those on-screen things that delineate where the building's gonna be by volume?
Story poles?
Story poles. Because I go by that property sometimes 4 times a day. And the amount of development by volume that you guys are proposing in this area, you sure it's possible? Like, say, has somebody gone through all the measurements and made sure that all these numbers add up right? Has that been done?
I would direct that question to the architect, but this is public comment. If you want to speak to her, I'd recommend that you reach out to them outside of this.
I love their contact information.
Okay, yeah, certainly.
The traffic is just, what you're proposing here and not including the spaces for traffic, I don't see how it's even possible. You guys are going to be creating an absolute nightmare for traffic if this goes through as proposed. Thank you.
So with that, I'll throw it back to
I
the,
had a public comment for this project as well.
Oh, there's a host.
okay, Joy?
I'd like to express my gratitude to the board, especially this gentleman who cares about what the people living in this facility, what their lives are going to be like. It makes me happy to hear that someone cares, because our original issues with Brisa and Sina was the units seemed like cells. They had no kitchen. There's no place to barbecue. There's no outdoor space except for the plaza, which the existing community can't access. It seems like we're creating this odd area in the middle of our community with just tons of stuff in it without any concern about the people who live there or even the people that are going to stay there that they're supposedly building it for. So I would really like, I guess I will contact Bob Nelson. He, the last meeting I attended with him, he was assuring Vandenberg Village community that there was not supportive housing they want to build over there. He obviously knows there's concerns with this kind of housing. There's fire danger. Again, I will reiterate, we barely got out the last time there was a fire with 7 ignition points. It was really a nightmare. I would hate to see that happen again after they build all this. I would really hope that someone higher up than me would take a look at it, higher up than the community members here, and say, you know, is this really going to work? Because I echo Karen's sentiment. I don't see it working in our community. And I can't help but think it's just greed that you want to have so many units so small in such a small area. I reject your vision for our community. Traffic's going to be a nightmare. Parking's going to be a nightmare. There's no sidewalks on the road, on Rucker Road, headed down. I'm just seeing all these people on electric bikes cruising around. all the time. I don't know. I really wish you would go back to the drawing board and look at the whole thing, because the whole thing is gonna really impact our community. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, with that, we'll throw it back to the applicant for any responses or additional questions.
All right, this is Frank Thompson. So, we have had a history in working with some residents, obviously not everybody, in Mission Hills, and we've had sessions in the past that, have not been easy, but I compliment Joy for working through them, helping, contributing ideas. We came here today to gather input from the community. We're not required to do that, but we think it's valuable. I didn't expect you to be happy on the first look, but I do want to give you a whole different perspective on it, and that all of you live in Mission Hills and you like Mission Hills, and it's got value to you for a reason. And so on the one hand, you want to complain that, and maybe so, rightfully, that the traffic seems difficult to you at rush hour when people are going to work, and that, you don't have a large grocery store, and there are a number of other things. But at the flip side of that is that there are things that are very valuable about Mission Hills that you like and you treasure and you value. And so the issue here is I'm asking you to share those things with other smaller households. The biggest difference is that you would have single person households and maybe a few 2-person households, and you don't have that in Mission Hills now. The people who are just a single person that want to rent an apartment or a small place in Mission Hills, there is no such thing. You can't find it. And state law and federal law favors widening housing choices. That's a simple statement. It just says that each community ought to have a range of housing types. That's exactly what we're doing here. So I know it's different and it's hard to get used to something that's different, but the studies do not support your statements that it would be a disaster. Yes, different, disaster, no. That the traffic studies that have been done were so low impact. Yeah, I know you feel like it's busy, but it's not. Objectively, not a problem. So the thing is, these 2 housing developments are what they call by right. So yeah, we could have built a 6-story building, but we didn't. We are trying to be very sensitive to the community, and I do appreciate your comments. I don't always agree with them, but we definitely can have a conversation, and that's really, it's kind of, difficult here. We're not sitting around the table together, I'm sorry, but we do listen to what you say, and we do appreciate the architectural comments, and we will make changes before we go forward. But the idea that we're going to quarrel about every single issue and somehow stop this project, you're not going to stop this project. Your job today is to help make the project better. And so that's what we're here for. The one project that is discretionary and you could stop out of spite if you felt like it, is the childcare. And again, valid comments were made today. We don't disparage those comments about the childcare, the parking, the drop-off spaces, and we are going to look at those very carefully. And it is an overall package. And that even though we had to deal with these separately, and unfortunately, the property owner of the shopping center couldn't bring his 4,000 square feet addition today, we really want you to understand this is going to make a new center for Mission Hills. I mean, you've had a shopping center that was only half built back in 1959 or 1960, and it's been half built in all these decades in between. And this is an opportunity to completely reimagine what the center of your small and very delightful neighborhood will look like. So a couple of questions. People were talking about, prison-like. I mean, those are kind of offensive terms. Here's the series. Here's what we got. We plan to serve 12 veterans, formerly homeless veterans, at the community center here. That's why it's called Plaza de la Bandera, right? Flag Plaza. And I think that, we found in the past that almost 40% of Mission Hills residents had a connection with the military. It fits, if you're asking me, and I would like to hear from you if you think it doesn't. But we also have, as was pointed out, a full-time resident manager with an apartment that supervises this new plaza area. And we have a full-time case manager and a full-time resident services manager. So the community center in the project is the community center, I mean, for the veterans. And so it's not necessary for them to leave the site. The services are coming to them. So, I think this was well thought out. A couple other things. The building is 3 stories. It needs an elevator. The way the elevator works, it's easy enough to put some sort of a tower element above it. Everyone said they don't like the tower. I personally think it provides a center, and if we brought the entire plan, you would see it, that this will be the center of the shopping center. And you will have enhanced shopping to go with it. And as well, you'll have the child care center, you'll have the Brisa Encina services for those residents, and you're going to have this community center for these residents. You're going to have 3 full-time employees in this neighborhood with these 2 housing developments, plus the number of employees over at the child care, all providing supervision in the neighborhood, which you do not have today. So I think that you really have to open yourself up to the possibility that this will be much better. It'll be very attractive. You will come to be proud of it. And I do believe those things sincerely. Thank you.
Could I just add one thing?
Yes, sir.
So just pointing out that there is an outdoor area both at the back of the property, the west side. We have a path and open areas back there. And that this covered plaza that you're looking at right now in the east elevation, those doors swing open to the community room, to the community kitchen. And we think that's going to be a real gathering area for our residents. They're welcome to go out into the area that faces into the plaza as well. But I think this is going to be, especially in the morning with the morning sun, a real gathering area. And then in the afternoon, we have on the west side open space there. And we're planning to put some benches and usable space. We worked with the fire department already, and you can see that a lot of the exits and the path of travel and the gates where there's going to be knock boxes and so forth to get through for the fire department. And so we've taken this to a practical level, and some of the things that you're objecting to, like the stairway on the outside and the north elevation, it's just building code. We have to be able to evacuate people in 2 different ways. I'd also say about the both of the tower elements can be removed. Those are strictly architectural. We thought you'd like them. So if it's too big, if it's too much, we can take them off, but then you'll see that the tower element is pretty basic, but it'll be shorter than the building because the elevator doesn't need to go to the pitch of the roof, of course.
On the south side. Bell Tower. On the right? Yeah.
I think there's a stair.
Both that 7-foot area and the 8.5 or 8 foot 1 inch and 3/4, those 2 elements could be removed. Those are just meant to be attractive, and if they're not, then they can go away.
Yeah, I mean, to add to what Mary said, I mean, we want the architecture here to be authentic, and that authentically tall elements like that do include bell towers to go with churches and civic buildings and so forth. I mean, it actually is a bell tower. If we're reading it wrong and we shouldn't do that, there are other ways to treat that area.
That's not a church.
Yeah, does staff have anything to add to at this point?
I guess I send you all emails if maybe if you want to check to make sure you guys receive them before we leave, just to make sure, just get you guys on the interested parties list.
It's always a little bit of a risk with people's handwriting.
Yeah,
Yeah,
just
you
wanna
never
make
know if
sure-
it's
make
gonna
sure you
get
guys actually-
transcribed correctly, so.
If I may just couple of just reply to a couple of comments. First, Will, we've received your comments about the architecture. We appreciate the comments about the north facade, and I think I concur. I think we need to do a better study of that north facade, and we will. I want to answer to, I like the concept also of the continuity of the arcade. It's something that we will definitely explore. We actually had it at some point. We had multiple iterations, but yeah, I think it's going to be interesting to go back to that continuity of the lower arcade. And I just want to reply to two comments. One is that, excuse me if I misspoke when I mentioned the mini split units if used. What I was trying to refer was mostly if we decide to go with a mini split system versus a VTAC unit for the unit for each unit. So HVAC will be provided for each unit, no matter what. The doubt here is if we're using mini split system or vertical package units. So that's the only difference, right? But it will be provided. And finally, about the dimensions, yes, there was a topographic survey, so this will fit in the property for sure. Somebody went there and took measurements, and our measurements match with that survey, so it's definitely matching existing dimensions. So that's all the comments I have.
Okay.
Thank you.
Can I make a quick comment? I just want to reply to what he said about basically us as a community sharing with other people, making it sound like kind of we're selfish or we're trying to keep people out. That's not it at all. I think that what you're doing is you're putting too many people in a small space. If you really care about the community and you really want to help people and you wanted us to share, we're totally down to share, then make it one story. Feasible. So, and I realize that you have no say and you're going to do what you're going to do no matter. But don't make us look like the bad guy. Don't insult us with those words. If you really wanted to help these people, make it one story. That's more, I think we can agree as a community, that's more feasible, but that's not the case. So, I know.
I want to address something that Claire said.
Hold on just a moment. Like we closed on it, we had it, we closed it. We have two other items we need to get to still today. I don't want to limit this discussion, and we encourage you to reach out to the developers and reach out to Soren and I after this meeting, but this is a meeting focused on architectural review.
With that, to the applicants, obviously there's some passion on both sides. I would strongly suggest probably some community meetings if that's possible for this part of the third phase of your overall plan. Again, these are our mere suggestions. You've come to us voluntarily, and we appreciate the opportunity to take a look at what you're proposing and hear our comments. We hope that you continue on that same vein and open up to additional community meetings and just merely taking some of our suggestions and doing your due diligence and your studies. Pablo, we appreciate the fact that you're willing to take a look at all of this stuff. So with that, again, talk to the community, get their feedback, and so that you can move forward with something that's good for the area and not just the landowner. So
I wish you good luck on this. And, you know, again, if you want to come back to us voluntarily, it'd be, you know, best, again, to give us the entire concept with, you know, show the other housing element, the open space land that you have on the lower end of the parcel that you've got some walkways to, and with the daycare center in this project. That said, I wish you all the best with this, and good luck with it.
All righty, thank you.
Thanks so much.
With that done, we'll move on to the third item on today's agenda. Item number 2300173, Verizon at Rucker Road. If the applicant is available, you are agendized for conceptual review. Go ahead and introduce yourself for the record and start your presentation. Thank you.
Good morning. My name is Madison Lascalza, and I'm here with Sequoia Deployment Services representing Verizon Wireless as the applicant. Verizon Wireless is proposing to construct a new unmanned telecommunication facility, which is disguised as a 50-foot tall faux water tower within a 900 square foot chain link fence enclosure to house the associated equipment. The proposed facility is located at APN 097-270-032, which is on the southwest corner of Parisma Road and Rucker Road. The proposed facility is intended to provide additional capacity and improve service on Parisma Road just north of Lompoc in the county of Santa Barbara. To access the facility, Verizon would enter from a 12-foot wide dirt road located off of Rucker Road. And with that, I'm available with any questions that you may have regarding the project.
What's there now?
Right now, a fruit stand.
Is that what I'm seeing?
That's not legal. Don't you say that. No,
Well, they just said what's there now.
there is not a fruit
Well,
stand.
okay, we have distinct parts of this meeting that we steps that we follow, so it's the applicant's opportunity to present at this time.
So currently it's used as farmland, agricultural farmland. So right now there's 2 storage containers that are there to house their farm equipment and tractors and things like that.
Do you have a picture of the pole?
It's a water tank.
It's a faux water tower, and there's elevations to show what it will look like, and then there's also photos that show what it will look like as well.
Can you tell me what the size and material of the faux posts are? The posts that are under the tower? Steel posts. What would I call them?
So that's just the frame to host the water tower up top.
Right, but tell me what it's made of and how big they are. Do you know? I don't see anything on here.
Diameter.
No, not the big guy going up the middle, but the structure part. The faux structure surrounding the thing. It's gridded.
Oh, that's for the water tower?
Yeah, the little leg things. What are they made of?
That's just like a metal material steel pole to house like the hybrid cables and things like that.
No, you're talking about I'm talking about the, what do I call it? Supporting structure. The supporting structure, the framework, that stuff, yeah. What's that made of? How big is it?
That's going to be smaller than the faux water tower. I don't know the exact width of that part. I just know the diameter of the exact faux water tower, which is the upper part, the widest part.
The actual materials, the actual materials that it's made of, and what size are they? Like they're 8 inches, 12 inches? What's it made of? Is it metal?
Exactly, yeah, and that's just to house the cables that are going through it. It's just a steel pole. It's going to house all of the hybrid cables that'll go through it to house those antennas up top.
I don't care about that at all. I'm talking about the frame, the aesthetic framework around it.
I can almost answer that for you guys.
Okay.
I've installed fiber to almost every single Verizon cell site, including the false tower sites.
What do you call that?
So it's a water tower, and it's literally built like an old-fashioned water tank, but underneath it, that framework you're talking about is steel I-beams. They're about 12 inches tall and about 6 to 8 inches in diameter, but it's a steel I-beam. There's one right off of Alamo Condado by the Quicksilver Horse Ranch, and there's also one out in Santa Ynez right by their water district.
So just to provide some context, SORN did request additional information from this applicant regarding their materials, the color usage and dimensioning. So we may not have it at this conceptual meeting, but we did request it.
There's one here in Old Orchid as well, right there by the brewery, right there.
And it's got big, thick legs on it.
Yeah, big steel I-beams that go into concrete anchors down the bottom.
Are these us in the industrial area?
All I'm asking about, I guess, is just the visual mass of it, of the legs. You know, is it going to be spindly, or is it going to be substantial, or is it going to be square? I don't remember what the one in Orchid looks like, but I remember reviewing it.
Flash and Dash, right?
No, that Flash and Dash is not. That's just an aesthetic thing. The one behind over
what's it? Naughty Oak, yeah, right now, Naughty Oak.
Yeah. It says Old Orchid.
It could be angle iron.
All right. Well, let's get back onto the topic here. You guys are agendized for conceptual. So we're going to ask that you provide us with information with regards to the structure supporting the faux water tower.
Thank you.
We'll ask that you provide us with a materials and color board with regards to the texture and color of the water tower itself, as well as the support that's underneath. The fencing that you've shown
shows it is open.
appears to be chain link open. If that's what you're proposing, then we'll need to, do you have anything that shows the height of that?
The chain link fence is a 8-foot high chain link fence enclosure.
And that, is it 8 foot to the chain link and then 2 feet for the security wire?
Hang on, sorry, it's not loading.
Oh, I mean, I don't think that they have the details right now.
It doesn't look proportionate.
Well, if you
Well,
look
it's,
on the
it
side
zoom in
view
on
right here.
that side right there. It still shows the overall height. Down on the lower.
Oh, Lord.
Yeah, where we're going.
So it's including the chain link, the barbed wire on top of it. Total height would be 8 feet.
Is there any landscaping?
No, there's no landscaping proposed. In the current area, there's no irrigation. It's just where they park their materials and store everything. So there's no existing irrigation where the actual faux water tower is. So therefore, no landscaping has been proposed.
Okay, so you're just basically going to put this on in their yard. They're going to park their equipment there and all that.
Correct. Yeah, we're working with them to put it in the least obtrusive way for them to still operate their farmland and agricultural business as well.
I have a question. Why did you choose a water tank over some of the other designs for that area?
That was the preferred design by the property owner.
So, okay.
Now, on this unmanned facility, are there working lights? Is that what?
The triangular.
There's the service lights exactly at the bottom of the enclosure part.
Okay. Are those as needed or are they going to be 24/7?
Those are at
Usually on the sensor. But we asked for additional info on that too.
Question? Going back to the photograph that showed the site with the proposed water tower. So the proposed water tank is separate from the Verizon tower we're talking about, or are you referring to this as the water tower?
The antennas are inside the circular.
Well, what I'm looking at right here, that looks about half the height of what's being proposed.
Well, there's a significant drop between roadside and where the base is going to be.
And it also looks like a different shape.
Yeah, the proportions are entirely different.
Right.
Right there.
Yeah, that makes more sense. Okay.
So proportions shown in the visual simulations don't match the elevation.
Not at all. This looks much more proportional than the elevation.
So the adjacent agricultural field that's literally right next to it, how is that irrigated?
That's on their own system. So up, it's a little, there's a slope that separates where the farm is and where the tower is. It's hard to show right there, but there's a little slope between the tower and the actual agricultural area.
So there is no water available to do even any minimal landscaping around this.
No. They pull the water out from irrigation ditches and
Gotcha.
irrigate the land to the
Certain
right.
irony there.
Hmm.
Certain irony.
Yes, isn't it though?
Also, your that picture of the water tower is different than the actual water tower.
That's right.
So you could maybe work on that a little bit.
My comment too.
Simulation.
What type of technology are they going to be pushing? 5G? What are they putting in there?
You're welcome to submit a public comment form if you'd like to speak.
I have.
Okay, for this project?
Yes, that's the first one I've submitted.
Great.
And you'll see why shortly.
And their structures are going to remain outside.
Sorry, what was the question?
Yeah, all their structures on site will remain.
That was a question.
What?
I spoke with the owner of the farm, and they said the trailer moves offsite, has been moved offsite, and that covered thing is gone. It's just the storage containers.
Okay.
We had some comments initially about potentially unpermitted structures as well in our feedback letter.
So I mean, potentially those are all going to be moved outside.
Potentially, yeah.
Well, the sea trains, they don't have to move them there. They can have them stand there. There's no one farm.
They can, they just need an LUP only for them. Technically, they're not exempt unless they can prove they were under a certain value. We provided options for them.
Or under a certain, like 500 square feet.
It's because they're enclosed, it's 120 square feet. Yeah.
Right.
But was conveyed to them on Tuesday.
Does the board have any other questions?
Yeah.
Do we just have the one speaker slip for this?
That one, and then And then I do see some callers online. If you do want to speak on this item, please raise your hand or dial *6.
First, before we do that, we'll get to Karen.
No, let me go first. Do you mind putting the visual up of the overview that shows the property directly across the street? Some of the previous slides you had showed the structure I need to make you aware of. The one that's from the overview.
Not this one then?
No, the one that comes from the top down, like looking at it from an aerial view, I guess. Is that what I'm using the wrong vernacular? No, you had I think it was one of the very first slides, or maybe you zoomed in. Did you zoom in on this? You actually showed, yeah, there we go. Okay. You're proposing this tower right here. We don't know what's going in it, whether it's 5G or whatever. This is our home, right there. That's our house. For the last 2 years before this one, we had Campbell Farms who came in here and did some new agricultural venture that they'd never done before, because we've lived in this house for over 20 years. We always had the farmer across the street, his name was Fred Hayes, and he did winter crops over there all the time. We never before had a crop in this field where they had to change the season in order to grow a summer crop in winter. They decided to do that with these agricultural fans that kept us up for 2 whole seasons where we could not sleep at night at all in our home. The homeowner believes that this proposal for this cell tower right here is in retaliation for the fact that we were successful in appealing to the board of directors to prevent them from these very inhabitable and non-neighborly agricultural practices that they were doing to make, who knows what their profit margin was, but they were doing new practices right across the street from an established home.
Karen, do you have an architectural comment? This is an architectural review board.
I'm not allowed to make a public comment?
No, ma'am, we're strictly architectural review, so could you?
Okay,
please
so
architectural-
we see this proposal, we're gonna be looking at it directly from our home. That's what we're gonna see when we look out the front of our home. We're going to see this. I guess that's my comment to you guys.
Yeah, this project will go to the planning commission, so there will be an actual hearing for the use as well.
Oh, great. Then I'm sorry I'm premature, but my name is Karen with an I, and I'm owning it. Thanks, guys.
Okay, let's open up to online.
I'm not seeing any raised hands, so no further public comment.
Sure.
And because this one goes to, it's a conditional use permit that goes to the planning commission, once you move it to preliminary,
They can go.
to
They can start
the
their
CPC.
process.
So if you have comments, they should be addressed before you move it to preliminary.
I think a more complete submittal
Right.
with what the tower actually looks like would be a good basis for conceptual review.
Yeah, I think primarily they need to study the proportions of the supporting structure versus the size and diameter of the tank, as well as maybe provide us with some material or color samples of what this might look like, whether it's brown, green, purple, whatever, but and maybe a little bit maybe a site plan that's actually a drawn site plan that we can kind of see how it actually interacts. I mean, the photographs are obviously good, but it's hard to sometimes visualize what it will really look like from the simulations. And I think, as we pointed out earlier, that the proportions in the simulations looked a lot more proportional than the actual drawing did. So if there's some way to maybe take a look at and study that, I think would be beneficial.
Does the applicant have topography for this site?
I think we have a civil sheet in there.
There's a civil sheet, yeah, there should be a topo line shown.
It's in the NBAR submittal.
Sheet C1 is the topography. It's the survey.
Right there.
I'm sorry, that's the old plans. The new plans had the topography inserted into it. So there will be revised plans that show the topography lines.
Yeah. Okay, thank you. So again, we'll need topography, color materials board, a more accurate representation on the photo sim of the construction drawings for this. As this is going to go in front of the Planning Commission, does the board feel that they need to provide additional conceptual? Or can we move forward with preliminary? So that they can get to a point where they're going in front of the Planning Commission.
I'd like to see a little better proportions on the structure and how it relates from the support structure to the tank. The proportions that are shown in the simulation look entirely different, particularly the width and the robustness of the support structure versus what was shown in the engineered drawing. It looked a little bit like it was teetering on the top there. And so from my viewpoint, I'd like to kind of see that.
So the support structure should be more representative of.
Well, it's
what the engineered drawings.
Yeah, the engineered drawings, it looks like it's barely able to support it. And I know the tower is really what supports it, but the width of the overall configuration of the support structure, I think just needs to be studied a little bit more.
Okay. Like Jen's comments, when people build things out of fake rock and they need to actually look like they would actually support the.
Exactly.
Okay.
And the simulation looked a lot more like it would, but the actual drawings look a little bit less robust.
Would it help, Steve, if they brought back, these things aren't new, this is not this one, they're everywhere. What if they bring a picture of one that is roughly 50 feet high, that built with the materials that they want to use, and
yeah, I think so.
Include it as to be similar? Would that help?
That would, sure, absolutely.
Those are other similar projects.
I mean, in the photograph, it actually looked like a water tower.
Mm-hmm. It's
This
better
is not-
proportions.
Yeah.
This is.
Thank you.
A little big, but I think access.
So at this time, again, we're not going to be, because you're under conceptual review, these are merely suggestions. I would suggest that you provide the information requested and come back for a second conceptual review. Are you good with that?
Yes, sorry, I was on mute.
Okay. So
Include the size of the materials you're using as the structure underneath the tower too. The sizes and the material.
As staff has indicated, there's some additional requirements that we're looking for. If you can bring those back with your next conceptual, that'd be great too.
No problem. We're working on getting a sample material board for both the water tower and then the structure part. The structure part is just to resemble the faux water tower feature. So we'll get a sample material board of that as well.
Thank you.
Appreciate it.
Okay, with that, we'll move on to item number 4, BR number 23000099, the Sencos Properties LLC Ortho Office. If the applicant is ready, go ahead and introduce yourself for the record and begin your presentation.
Yes, my name is Jesse Hulsher. I represent Terwisha Construction. We are the designers and the contractor for Dr. Eric Castle for his Castle Orthodontics project. So we've had this reviewed a few times. So the presentation isn't drastically different than last time. We just updated some comments. If you wouldn't mind showing the plan set, I can address a couple of those instead of the landscaping plans. Fantastic, thank you. I know we had some comments about light fixtures and such in the past. Those were updated and reviewed at our about a month ago. I did want to note there was a comment our last go around on the south elevation, which in this perspective would be the left-hand side. The area above the awning being a little light. I think that has to do with the rendering. We do have a color board in there with some of the materials and the actual colors. It's more of a grayish. So again, I just wanted to note that. One of the other past comments was, if you'll recall, we had quite a bit of concrete out on the outside of the building. We filled in with more landscape. We have been having the site reviewed by Public Works, and a couple comments that came out of their updates is that some elevations changed on the sites. We no longer have our stairs in play. It'll be more of a flat area out front. So no ramps or anything like that needed. As well as, I believe there's a comment about the awning on the rental spot on the left-hand side there, about possibly making that a little bit larger. We did have some feedback from Public Works that we actually had to extend our sidewalk out a little bit further because they didn't want the awning impeding in the walking right away or the pedestrian right away. So, just trying to look through the past comments. That was a majority of what we had seen and updated. So I guess that's about what I have for the presentation today.
Thank you. With that, I'll open up to the board. Does the board have any?
Well, I had some comments before about the posts and how they post beams, braces, how it intersected with the ground, how it intersected with the building. I don't see any of that addressed. And for in order to get final, you need to give us a complete set of plans, including architectural details, exposed beams, posts, braces, bases, all the window and trim details, roof termination details, details of material changes, and so forth. So what we need is working drawings.
Okay. I know that had been submitted before, so I think that might have been an oversight on our team's part with the updates from the previous reviews.
Review some of the other, there's some comments about details that I provided that I don't see addressed, but also one other thing, you've got a color board. Where's the color board? You've got one color that I think is way too bright, which is snowscape white. I think you should soften that color somehow, bring it down so that it's not it's going to be too contrasty with your other colors.
Now, is that just trim in the fascia?
Correct.
I don't think it should be on the building. but that's me. That's it.
Can you repeat that last one for me real quick, please?
Color. There's a color on the trim which is called snowflake white. I think it should be a softened color. Instead of, it's too bright.
Should be a softer white.
Yeah.
Okay, thank you. And the other was provide details that have been previously requested and ensure plans comply with
I think that's,
requirements for final approval.
that's part of the final
Yeah.
requirements.
Right. They need to provide us with
Construction documents.
construction documents so we can look at those, because we need to see what the guy's going to have in the field they're going to build from. Everything,
Sure.
the structural details,
Or mechanical, that's.
but if it's exposed, we want to see those details too.
Thank you.
Okay. Yeah. Apologies on our part. I know that they had been submitted previously. I think that was just a misunderstanding on our part with the updates.
And in general, like the posts and beams and stuff, try to be as clever as you can to conceal any kind of connections, make it elegant.
I think you've done a great job with the landscaping. It's a big improvement.
And
Thank you.
apropos the landscaping, I just want to clarify, is this our landscaping plan as we're seeing it right now, is that still aspirational, or is that actually what it is going to look like?
And I apologize. Our lead designers on the project and our civil engineer are both tied up today, so I'm kind of pinch hitting for the team. My understanding is that we have had all the plan sets are in for review with the county as far as a building plan. We also, I apologize, I'm losing the vernacular, the title to it, but I know that Anthony, our landscape engineer, has had a review through another department over the landscape plan, and he has provided updates and stuff. So I would say that it's closer to what will actually be there than conceptual.
Because typically we would need to see the landscape and irrigation plans as part of that final submittal.
Yeah, that's also included.
Yeah, we do have the landscape plans included.
It was another package.
Okay, I didn't see it.
Is there a specific page you want to look review?
I just remember at one point there was an issue of the landscaping in that particular area being subject to Caltrans.
Yeah, I do know that as well. And hopefully they resolved it.
That's why I was asking if it was
There it is.
aspirational.
Yeah, so Public Works has reviewed this and our civil site plans, and I know that they're working with Caltrans on potential off-site improvements and such, and so they have been coordinating that, to my understanding. So we did have nothing major change in the areas, but as I mentioned, in the bottom left-hand corner of the building, as you can see on this site plan, we had to bump out our sidewalk a little bit more. And then there was just a little bit of change towards the end of that parking area as far as how that kind of, I guess, piece came in with the curbing. So.
No, I don't see it. Well, no, possibly.
We have a picture of the south elevation.
I think it's up above probably, or not in the landscaping stuff.
It wouldn't be a
Yeah,
landscape
it's on the
side.
other side.
Is there a south elevation there? One for
Kevin's the landscape architect.
Right.
I thought originally they were supposed to get us some deep trees out here. Those are.
The red.
There it is.
Western redbud. Those the ones that are in market.
But those are trees.
Yes.
Yeah.
But it doesn't show trees in the render.
Oh, probably not.
Renderings are, that's why we don't like renderings.
Because they flop. They're never up to speed. They're always late.
If that's what Public Works landed out with the landscaping, that's a big change.
It is.
That's a fantastic change from that sea of concrete they had out there.
Especially with no stairs. I like that.
Yes, we're happy about no stairs as well.
So how far along are you on with the building permit process?
That's a great question that we're trying to get clarity to. Obviously, after this, we would be approved for our LUP. We have had, I believe, 3 rounds of comments back from the building department. We've also passed fire, from my understanding, and then Public Works, I believe, we're just resubmitting the most recent comments.
How are you doing with Caltrans?
I don't remember that.
That's a good question. Excuse me, that I don't know if I have a great answer for.
Have
As
you
I mentioned,
received comments from them and responded to their?
yes, I believe there has been some comments back from Caltrans already. Yep.
Christmas. Okay.
So, I don't know if you were involved in the first couple rounds of comments, but the building actually looks really, really nice now.
Thank you.
What they started with. The landscaping looks great. The frontal of the building, really, really nice. The only comment I would have on everything is just, for your final rendition, for all your colors and everything, I know you're trying to make it look like it's multiple different units, so the different textures. It just starts to get just a little busy.
Okay.
From a builder's eye, it starts to get a little bit busy, especially on the south elevation. So just be careful with the number of different textures and colors that you're presenting on your final go around. But it does look nice, and I do follow the ideal that it's supposed to look like several different units, an old time orchid, several different units. So I appreciate that.
Sure. Just for some clarity, if we were to maybe change that upper color to more like what we're representing in, like say the west elevation, or the orthodontic clinic itself on the east elevation, is that something that would be well receptive, I guess?
Yes. I think
Okay.
so.
So the study using the cream color on the south elevation. Okay.
Yeah, I think it's technically a tan, or excuse me, a gray. It doesn't show well in these extra elevations, but what we've got for the orthodontic side is a Terra Brown, is the actual color of it, and that's something that I don't think that we would be opposed to changing, if that would be acceptable.
Just study the number of different colors that you have so much architectural texture. Yeah.
Yep.
That it starts to get just a tad bit busy.
Sure.
Just not objectionable, obviously, but it's just starting to get just a tad bit busy, and maybe take Jim's comment about how that one stark white fits in.
Sure.
Other than that, it looks really neat. It does match the intent of the Old Town Orchid compared to what we started off seeing.
Absolutely.
And the landscaping does soften it immensely. So
Fantastic. Thank you.
get away with that with Caltrans. God bless you.
I'm gonna keep my mouth shut.
That I forgot to mention, you've got where it says castle, that whole element, the parapet above it, isn't very deep. And if it was deeper somehow, I think it would be more substantial. You know what I mean?
Okay.
Adding depth to this.
I think, if I recall, I think we did have it a little bit more substantial, and I don't know if it showed as well on a previous hearing. I mean, we'd be willing to revisit that absolutely if that's the direction of the committee to.
Back a little more, it'll look heavier, which is what you kind of want for that element.
Yeah, overall the proportions aren't bad. So
Yeah, instead of it being thin, it's going to look like, it's going to imply that it's very thick, much more thick, and I think it would look a little better if it works on the roof.
For the parapet.
The entry element that says castle, that parapet, if they could thicken that up a little bit, it would
Okay.
give it more oomph.
Good.
Oomph is important.
Oomph is good. When it's made out of stone, it's supposed to have a lot of oomph.
Thank you.
Does the board have any other additional comments? Does the applicant have any comments? Nobody wants
Maybe, oh, sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off there. Maybe just a quick question and just an update. So we had submitted our plans to the city, and I know that that has nothing to do with you guys. Early on this year, it's been kind of a process and stuff. Dr. Castle is currently in Orcutt in a rent or a leasehold space. And the owner is selling their property, and so his lease is coming up, and there's just a number of factors, I guess, that are coming up with that. So knowing that this would be the next approval to get to our LUP, which kind of keeps the ball rolling as far as getting to a point where we can get shovels in the ground, is there an opportunity where we can maybe make some of these updates and send them in so that they could be administratively approved, or does it have to go then another 30-day waiting period to review this? I'm just asking just to look out for Dr. Castle and try and expedite any way that we might be able to do that. So,
No, I think we understand your situation. Unfortunately, there isn't a venue for us to be able to administratively review it outside of this meeting.
Could we do it on consent?
No. It has to be reviewed.
Well,
and same thing.
So, I mean, that kind of goes to what I asked about where you were with the building permit process.
Yep.
For you to put shovels in the ground, you have to have a building permit. I understand that you also have to have a land use permit before you get a building permit.
Yep.
So with that said, and where you are in the process, I think those are going to line up at about the same time. Hopefully.
Yeah, hopefully. Now, yeah, you're absolutely correct. I think in our mind, this is the next step, and then obviously the LUP, whereas the building permit process is kind of running simultaneously with it. My understanding is we can still get approved for a permit. We just won't get the official issuance until the LUP is approved.
Yeah,
So,
you get that fairly quickly. I think what we're asking for are clarification details.
Sure. Okay.
Not something that we're going to scrutinize and heavily scrutinize anyway.
I will.
Heavily scrutinize.
Do that.
But that would complete what is required for final approval.
Okay, so just for clarification here, make sure that we have the complete architectural set with engineered documents as far as structural and stuff included as well with their next submission.
Just the architectural details.
Include
Just
any structural details that are visible, that are also architectural details, include those.
Primarily architecture.
Yeah, I mean, your structural details are gonna tell us how they put it together. We want to see how the finish is put together.
Sure, got
Also,
it.
window details, any material changes, details, roof terminations, details, detail it up.
So I'm sure you already have that with your construction set.
Yep.
So you can include those sheets in the next submittal.
Yeah.
Okay, and then just real quick clarifications. Lose the white. A little busy on the south elevation. I think we'll probably push to change that upper part to similar brownish color as the rest of the building, and then make the front parapet a little bit more substantial.
Yeah, thicker, definitely.
I canceled.
Unless it
what
raises
I've been doing.
havoc on the roof, but I think it would look good.
Okay.
You have preliminary approval, so all this stuff is just your final detailing with completed plans that you're gonna build, basically. So.
Correct, and I didn't mean to give you a sob story. I was we're just trying to expedite it any way we can for Dr. Castle. He's very excited about the opportunity for the new building, the new space, and like I said, there's just some.
In the whole set of plans, if we had the whole set of plans right here, right now, today to look at, if they were in the submitted package, and I understand you guys probably thought you had already got them, but maybe in the way they handle them internally in the computer system, maybe that doesn't come forward that way. But that, I mean, if you were done, you were done, and we could have granted final on consent for minor things like change this color to that color and, add this to this little item to there. But because we don't have the full set of plans sitting in front of us with all of the, the building drawings. That's kind of the holdup right at the moment. Does that make sense? We have a colored picture and that's all we have at the moment. But that's what we're missing, so. Work with the planner, the staff to make sure that everything's in the box that we need, so that way, because we could easily grant final approval the next time, which would be the same thing. We would still need the stuff submitted for the final approval, even on a consent agenda item. So it's still going to be 30 days away, but you do have the ability to work all the way through everything and for planning and for the building with preliminary approval.
Okay. A quick clarifying question. If it is fully approved at the next NBAR meeting, is there a window from that approval till when it would be, I'll say, pushed through so that we can have our LUP approved? Or is that something that happens like, in the course of a couple of business days?
I'm not sure what the status of the permit is, if every other, requirement has been fulfilled or not. I would need to check in with Adam about if there are any other outstanding items.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
You're real close, though.
Thank you. Appreciate it.
Yeah.
We do enjoy meetings, but I know you're looking forward to not seeing our faces anymore.
Hopefully it's
Well, thank you very much.
Thank.
We'll see you next time, man.
Okay, sounds good. Thank you.
So with that, I'm on today's agenda. I'll ask for a motion to adjourn this meeting. Second,
third.
Say aye.
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 And Merry Christmas, Happy
Merry Christmas,
Hanukkah,
everyone.
everybody.
I get to get a little rush there for the kids' activities.
Happy Festivus, everyone.
Yes, Festivus, Kwanzaa, Tom.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. I gotta run.
Yeah, no problem.
Bobby Jones, take care.
Dad, Mom said we were